So we are coming up on the 5-year anniversary of one of my favorite baseball trades. And the reason it's a favorite is I just can't think of any other deals quite like it. Opening day eve 2015, the Braves sent Craig Kimbrel out to the Padres, the all-star closer. How does that happen right before the start of the season? That's what we're going to talk about today. If you head down below and subscribe, MLB Trade Rumors is going to be bringing you tons more videos in the months and years to come, so please run down and do that. But listen, back in 2015, you had two young gun GMs, AJ Preller for the Padres, John Coppolella for the Braves. They were both wheeling and dealing in different directions. The Padres, remember, were going for it that winter. They ended up bringing in guys like Justin Upton, Matt Kemp, Will Myers, James Shields, lots of money going onto the books. And they had worked out a deal with Coppolella and the Braves already, the Upton swap. But there was another Upton in Atlanta you might recall. Melvin, previously known as BJ, now he's back to BJ Upton. He was owed a ton of money, and the sides had been talking about Craig Kimbrel, batting around ideas, and then finally pulled the trigger on the eve of opening day. Coppolella and the Braves, they were looking to offload salaries, bring in as much young talent as possible, and that resulted in this super unique swap. All right, let me give you the nuts and bolts of this deal. Kimbrel was owed only $33 million over the next 3 seasons, 2015 through 2017. Then there was a $1 million buyout on a club option for another campaign. So this is a really attractive contract. He had signed an extension with the Braves. This is a guy who is one of the 2 or 3 best relievers in all of baseball, super dominant. So how are we going to make this work out? Well, the Padres agreed to take over the salary of Melvin Upton, which was $40 million and change left on it. He had been playing very poorly since signing as a free agent. Then balancing it back out the other way came veterans Carlos Quentin and Cameron Maybin. If you net out all these salaries, I don't think either team really was too concerned about the players involved with those contracts, except, of course, for Kimbrel. It was about $56 million in guarantees for 3 seasons of Kimbrel. If you tack on that option, it brings you up to nearly $70 million for 4 seasons, which was more than he was owed. So the Padres took on extra cash, and of course, they also sent some young players. At the time, the main piece of that deal was Matt Whistler, a pretty well-regarded young pitcher. Outfielder Jordan Perubic also was in that deal. He had been a second-round draft pick, and there was a competitive balance selection, ended up being the 41st overall pick in the coming draft. All right, so how did this deal work out? Let's look at the Braves first. Whistler was honestly a bust. Perubic ended up being traded away, never even saw time in an Atlanta uniform, and washed out. So nothing doing there, but that 41st overall draft pick ended up turning into a guy who is quite an important part of the Braves right now, Austin Riley, third baseman, corner outfielder. Still not clear what he's going to become as a big leaguer, but plenty of talent, and he is really the piece that had the most interest in the long run for the Braves. But that's not where it ends, because remember, they got Cameron Maybin in that deal as well. Carlos Quentin ended up retiring, but Maybin ended up having a bit of a renaissance in Atlanta. He ended up being traded after the season to the Tigers for Ian Kroll and Gabe Spire, a couple of lefties. Spire, well, he ended up being traded as part of the Shelby Miller deal. Not a huge part of it, but a nice little footnote to this. Those trade tentacles just keep spreading out. All right, now the butterfly effect is even more interesting on the San Diego side. They did get 1 season out of Kimbrel. He struggled early, but ended up bouncing back and pretty much was as dominant as ever. So after that super disappointing season for the Padres, nothing went according to plan. They were still able to cash Kimbrel in for prospects, which perhaps was part of the backup plan all along. So what did they get? Young center fielder Manuel Margot. They got Carlos Asuaje, an infielder. They got Javier Guerra, another young infielder. He was probably the highest regarded prospect in that deal along with Margot. And then Logan Allen, a young left-handed pitcher. Where did all these guys go? They're all scattered now. Margot was just traded in a deal that brought back reliever Emilio Pagan. That's in part because he was replaced in the long-term picture to some degree by a young outfielder named Taylor Trammell, who was acquired in a deal last summer in which Logan Allen was dealt out from San Diego. Asuaje has moved on, and then you're left with Javier Guerra, who now is not an infielder but a relief pitcher in San Diego. He's the last piece of the deal left there for them. Of course, Upton had a little bit of a renaissance of his own in San Diego, had a nice season there, and ended up being traded away to the Blue Jays. Nothing all that interesting beyond that. But listen, this trade to me is super interesting because of the crazy way that it exploded and resulted in all these different players moving in every different direction. And most of all, because of how unusual it was to see a significant trade at that time of the year. You gotta say, in the end, this one worked out in the favor of the Braves. Of course, what did they do with all that money that they had freed up? They went and spent it on international prospects in a, let's say, overly creative way. It was part of the downfall of Capalella. Preller is still on hand out in San Diego, still has the gig, but it's make or break time for him, time to make that organization into a winner. If you enjoyed this video, please do run down and hit the like button. And don't forget to drop a comment if you like this video, have other ideas, other things you want to see us talk about. We are open to any and all ideas.